We've got James in North Carolina. You're on with Dennis and Matt.
Hey, this is James in West Jefferson, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. How you doing?
All right.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm up in the mountains. Got myself a log cabin and got on my bucket list. So,
Wow.
That's not why I called.
Have you got decent internet access there?
Actually, I do, but I don't have your show up. I was afraid I'd get feedback. So
No, that's fine. I'm just looking for a place to go hide from everybody, and a log cabin in North Carolina with internet access sounds pretty good. One without internet access.
Just give me a week's notice. And you can come and stay here. I got 2 guest rooms.
You'd have to turn the internet access off because I think that's pretty much what I need at this point.
Yeah, right.
Off the grid.
Listen, what I was calling about was as I said when your guy answered the phone, the efficacy of intuition. And my son turned me onto your show, and I've been just binge watching you guys. And I consider myself an agnostic atheist, and that that's really neither here nor there for what I'm calling about. Intuition is I really don't know that I even know what the definition or what it means, but I hear a lot of your callers who are theists who reach a point where they can't explain why they believe what they believe, and they're fumbling around, and logic just isn't working, and so they go to the whole faith thing, which I don't buy. I don't buy that faith is a legitimate reason for believing something, but I do have some experience with what I, for lack of a better word, call intuition, and that is I was a professor of fine art for 32 years, and I taught one of the classes I taught was design. And if you look into design, it's the concepts are all based on logical things that are very logical, like rhythm and balance and variety and harmony and things that can be explained logically. But I have, in my own artwork and with my students as well, I have reached points in the process of creating an image where the logic of design just didn't seem to solve the problem.
Oh, sure.
And so, and this, I used to teach this to my students, but I used it as well. The idea that, okay, if logic isn't working, then what am I going to do? And there, after years of experience, I would have this sense. Well, okay, I'm gonna forget logic, and I'm just going to make a decision based on some sense of the correctness of it. And I can't explain why it's correct. I can't explain why it's right, but it seems to work.
Yeah, I'm an artist who does the same thing.
Yeah, and so what I'm wanting to hear from you guys is what your take is on that, because I've spent years trying to figure it out, and I just know that I've reached a point and I've done a lot of artwork and whatnot. I've reached a point in many cases where I just don't know what to do, and so then I say, okay, well, just forget the design concepts. Throw the logic out the window and wait, and when I say wait, I don't mean wait 10 years, but,
Sure.
give your sense a chance to come up with this sense of the correctness of whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah, well, you got to know when to break the rules.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I don't, I wonder whether, some of that kind of intuitive thing is not happening with some of your less happy theists who call and can't explain why they believe what they believe.
Huh.
It's one of okay. If I'm understanding this right, and I'm not an artist, Dennis is. I have. Are you familiar with Robert Wood, the landscape painter?
Yes.
Okay, so I have 25 or 26 Robert Wood lithographs and one original Robert Wood painting in my house.
Cool.
My mom started collecting it, and I fell in love with it. And he painted in the Catskills, and he painted here in Texas, and then he did kind of his seashore stuff in California. I can't tell you why I like it. Sometimes I think it's maybe a connection with nature or anything else. I can't draw or paint or do whatever to save my life. But I can appreciate the fact that when we're talking about something like art, there are the rules and things you learn. And then this reminds me of a talk, Bizarro at the Magic Convention was giving a talk, and he's like, this is going to sound a little bit like How to Be Creative, but it's not.
Right.
And I've talked with artists who are like, if I can't think of anything, I might just put the pen on the paper and move it around until it starts to look like something to give me the idea, to draw inspiration from something.
Correct.
That sort of intuitive thinking is great because we live our lives primarily by our guts, our inference and induction, because today's pretty much the same as yesterday. And but the value of that is entirely rooted in how well you've trained your gut. If you have not applied skepticism and critical thinking, if you've not honed your BS detector, then you're going to wind up believing a bunch of things that aren't true because you're making connections where they shouldn't exist. Similarly, I don't think when it comes to like a belief in a God, it may be the case that these people look at the world and are like, oh my gosh, there's just so much I don't know, and this doesn't make sense, and I don't know how to live my life, and what's going to happen after I'm gone, and what happened to my relatives, and all this other stuff. And then they're like, maybe I'll just put pen to paper. And hey, that looks kind of godlike. And then they find a bunch of other people who put pen to paper, and they start talking. They speak in whatever their language is, but the words they're saying are conveying intuitive concepts that aren't necessarily tied to reality, and yet they'll feel the connection.
Right, and they're intuitive to them, but it's like...
And this is how you get a bunch of people together to share a religious belief.
Yeah.
Right.
And then as soon as you find out that, hang on, the thing that I was describing that you thought was the same thing you were describing, it's not the same. We found the thing about my thing that's different from your thing, and now we need to split, and you become the First Baptist Church, and I become the Second Baptist Church.
Right, the first schism.
I value, so one of the things, you go back to Spock with logic is the beginning of wisdom. When you talk about morality and ethics, I value empathy as an incredibly strong and significant part of anything related to morality. Not everything has to be something you could put in a syllogism. And the fact that you feel something doesn't mean that it's wrong. The fact that you've intuited something doesn't mean that it's wrong. The caution that I would have everyone exercise is don't think that it's actually correct just because it feels correct and may even produce good results on occasion. There should always be a tentative thing where as soon as you get better information, you revise that.
Right.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I don't know that. I don't know that I'll ever understand the process of how I come to those conclusions in my artwork, or how I've witnessed it with my students, and I just say, well, quit trying to use it. I used to tell them, okay, you're going to take my design course, and when you're done, forget it.
Right. Right.
And yeah.
But all the rules can be thrown out. You look at something like filmmaking, where right now Dennis and I are not positioned properly. I should be about here. So that, now you moved and that.
Oh, I did. I threw it off.
Because the TV centered, not only that, but then we've got our thirds and all that other stuff. But, and I don't know if Mark can do this or even wants to, but if you're watching a film, sometimes they'll tilt the camera at an odd angle because that does something to the viewer that puts them in a space. So you're breaking the rules of what would be a proper image, but you're doing it on purpose because you don't want a proper image. It reminds me of music where you're following, maybe you're doing a Lydian progression or whatever, and so there we go. Here we are. I don't know if you can. You can't see the screen, but the picture's.
And now we need creepy music, and that's perfect, right there.
Maybe you're following, a Lydian progression or whatever else, and you're expecting to go home, but somebody who's trying to convey a different message wants to hang on to that tension and not take you back home in the music where it is, and that is it. It is the imperfections that is where we find beauty. Yes, we lean towards symmetry, but perfect symmetry we find weird.
That'll look great to people scrolling through the YouTube video.
So I guess
Mark's so good.
Where I was going with this is that like I said, I watched a lot of your shows, and I sometimes feel sympathy for the theists that call and they can't seem to explain why they believe what they believe, and I'm thinking those poor guys. I understand because there are times when I've done things and I don't know why. I'm talking about in my artwork now. I don't know why I've done them, but I know that it comes out the way it should come out, or the way I feel like it should come out. And
it seems the whole structure of religion is rules based, And to break the rules is not a thing you do.
Okay.
And to be different from another religion means you're not breaking rules. You're obeying different rules.
Yeah, you're wrong.
And so it's like, it's all rules based at the crux.
The big thing is that all of our positions should be tentative. Our confidence level in them should be proportional to the evidence, and we shouldn't confuse the fact that intuition and other things like that, especially, I mean, in the arts, I have a difficult time with people who judge art as anything other than a subjective experience. I understand that there are rules of composition we've learned, but those rules, by the way, are still based on us as humans and what we want to see, and the fact that our brains are pretty similar.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why I can make predictions during a mentalism show. There's a reason why I was able to, blow people's minds last night just out there making predictions about what action they take, because we are far more predictable than we ever think we are. And so it's not surprising that we would come up with rules for art and then acknowledge that we can break those rules. The problem which you're pointing to is when people take those intuitive leaps and codify and sanctify those as if they are the new rule. That's probably where the problem comes in.
Right. Yeah.
On that note, James, I appreciate the call, but we have full lines in like 10 minutes. We're definitely going over time.
All right.
If you are on the phone lines right now, we're going to do everything we can to get to all of you before we finish for the day. And there's lots of theists, so I don't know how long it's going to take. If you're not on the lines, we're not going to be taking any more calls today. If you are ever going to be in the atheist area, Austin is the atheist.
Welcome
to Mecca. Welcome to the Atheist Mecca. If you're going to be in the Austin area, by all means, stop by the library. If you're here on the weekend, please come to the shows and participate. There's also online forums and things where you can be involved in the organization. There's a community here for people, and we can't possibly say that enough. We are thrilled with the people who showed up today from all over the place. Raise your hand if you're not from Austin. Yeah, Woo. That's like half or more. It's a great place. You should visit or move here if you're nice. But we're going to try and knock out some calls. By the way, after the show's over, we will be having dinner. I haven't been told what we're having or who's taking. I don't know. Hey, pizza.
Woo!
Pizza. So all you college students. Oh wait, UT's not in session right now. Whoops, you missed out on pizza. What were you thinking, Secular Student Alliance? There's going to be pizza.
Can't wait. All right.
Let's